Joining us, Elizabeth McDonald, Ashley Webster, Scott Martin there, and welcome back, Christina Parts-Nevelis. Right, the bounce back. We called it. Time for a victory lap. Are you taking a victory lap, Scott Martin? Did you tell people to buy the dip of yesterday and make some money?
Not just yesterday, Stuart, but on these other dips that we've talked about throughout the year. You know, this is an upward trending market. It's an improving economy. It's a very good earnings situation. It is, in my opinion, a good foreign policy that's being sprayed around the world as far as actually putting America first. So therefore, when you see pullbacks in your favorite stocks, whether they're in the S&P 500 or the good old NASI, you got to buy them.
Christina Parts-Nevelis, I'm not going to ask you for a stock market forecast, but look back and say, would buying the dip make sense?
Of course. Even just yesterday with Apple being an excellent example going down, I see there's going to be a lot of upside, markets going higher. A lot of economists and some of the talks I've been to lately say 2020 is where we're going to see some downward trends. So we still have some upside.
Long way to go.
I know. Well, yes, of course.
We got to watch the cautious outlook for this earnings season, right? Because that hit Caterpillar stock, even though Caterpillar every quarter for 20 years it's giving that cautious outlook at that time. But just for this period, right?
But overall, what I'm reading is an increase of 20% or thereabouts.
That's right.
Across the board for profits.
Which is remarkable.
Remarkable. And
That's huge.
It is. And to Ashley's point, tech has been up for the sector of the S&P 500 5 straight quarters. It's looking at 26% upside to earnings.
And Pepsi released their earnings, and in their outlook, they barely mentioned trade. So there's an example of a company, here you go, first one to come to the Q2, and still trade's not playing a big role.
We'll take it. I've got a story about Apple. A former Apple engineer arrested on his way to China. Yeah. He was charged with stealing Apple's autonomous car secrets.
The details of this are pretty shocking. Shoulang Chang was a hardware engineer seen on closed-circuit Apple TV, their security cameras, walking out with boxes, a computer keyboard, taking the schematics, engineering schematics, the secret designs for what Apple is doing with their robot cars. He claimed he was going to go back to China on paternity leave for family reasons. Geez. No, he was going to work for another company in China, a state-backed company, a car company in China. So, you know, this is a textbook example of what China does and has been doing for years with engineers here on HB1 visas coming in, taking the company's secrets here in the United States and going to work for Chinese
You think
companies.
He'd be smarter, though. He literally airdropped some of the files on his wife's laptop. Like, come on.
It's not very good tradecraft if you're an industrial spy. Papa John's, the founder thereof, has resigned. He was chairman. Now he's resigned. After a report that he used a racial slur on a conference call. Let's deal with this quickly.
Yeah, he was doing role-playing to avoid racially charged mishaps in the future. He was working with an outside marketing firm on a conference call, said, quote, Colonel Sanders called blacks the N-word, but Sanders never faced backlash. On this conference call, he also said, people used to drag African Americans from trucks until they died. So those are two racially charged things he reportedly has said. He has since resigned as chairman of the board. The company lost about $90 million in market value because of this.
Bounce back.
Bounce back. He's still on the board. He still will remain on the board, not chair.
All right, look at the big board. We are 5 minutes in, and we're up 160 points. We opened up 200. Now we're up 160. That's 2/3 of 1%. All right, big tech. That's where the action usually is. And the action is on the upside this morning. Facebook at 204. Amazon, 1768. That's an all-time high. Apple, 190. Alphabet, 1179. Microsoft reaching 103. It's up a buck this morning. That's an all-time high for Microsoft, I do believe. How about the price of oil? We keep saying it's near a 4-year high. It's not. It's at $70 per barrel, down again after a big drop yesterday. How about the price of gas? The price of regular averages now $2.88 per gallon. Left-hand side of your screen, that is Marine One. Carrying President Trump, of course. It has landed in London that's Bill Shine, by the way, coming off the Marine One right there. Part of the staff that is with the president on his visit to London, Britain, I should say, which has just begun. He landed at Stansted Airport just outside of London about a half hour ago.
I think that's the grounds of the U.S. ambassador's residence, 10 acres, the residence in Regent's Park. So plenty of space to land your chopper, as they say.
He's heading to Blenheim Palace right now.
No, later on this morning.
Later on.
I think there's a reception first, no press allowed. So we're not expecting much to come out of that.
You know what would be amazing? You've talked talked about this. The president says, ooh, a new bilateral trade deal with the UK. You're going to be in the front of the line with us, as opposed to what President Obama is saying, being in the back of the queue if you do Brexit.
That's right.
By the way, I made a mistake. The helicopter you just saw was what's called the forward helicopter. The helicopter carrying our president.
That was
is the next one.
Marine 2.
Marine 2. I mistook it for Marine 1. All right, got it. Staying on oil, $70 per barrel. Why? Because the Saudis are raising production, and that has lowered the cost of crude significantly. All right, Scott, would you still be investing in oil companies and pipeline companies with this price decline that we've got on our hands now?
Pipelines, yes, Stuart, because we need the infrastructure. We've got thousands of wells drilled here that are ready to be pumped, but we don't have the pipelines to bring the oil out of there. But I don't believe anything when it comes to the Saudis and their predictions as far as production on oil prices or whatnot, because I'll tell you, they've totally blown those predictions out of the water. So to me, if you're looking at investing in infrastructure in the U.S., it's AMLP. That's an ETF that we've talked about on this show before. It's got an 8% plus dividend. It's coming out of the 3-year bear market. So as they build infrastructure, as they start tapping those thousands of wells that are ready to produce, I think you're going to see AMLP benefit.
AMLP yields 8%. I'm glad you told me that, son. That's very good news. All right, might just have a look at that one. And here's a story we've been following, and not many people others have. Disney placing a bet on e-sports. What's this all about, Liz?
Well, they're going to put money into it. You know, the competitions, as we know, draws tremendous amount of interest, but it's the viewers. They can sell out stadiums. The Staples Center in Los Angeles is sold out for e-gaming. Now there's even talk of e-gamers at some point being in the Olympics. We all scoff, but there are those... I kid you not.
I know. But does that warrant it? They're not actually physically moving. Maybe if you take esports and you involve artificial AR or just literally movement, like with the Pokemon Go, then I can understand.
Get out of your
seat.
seat.
You're sitting there. I do not see that as an Olympic sport. Do you?
No, I don't, actually. I agree with you entirely.
But I feel like it could.
It's like chess is not a sport.
Bowling.
Why is everybody laughing?
Chess.
Hey, Scott,
I like
why are you
chess.
laughing? Why are you laughing? That's not controversial.
I played chess in high school. I thought that was a sport. I got a letter for it in high school.
Get out of their chair.
You got a letter.
And then you just pretty much, my argument.
I'm totally lost. On your screens right now, Electronic Arts up nearly $2. That's 1.3%. Activision Blizzard up 1.35%. Esports is hot. They're filling stadiums.
Crazy.
They're making some of these youngsters who play in these teams. They make millions of dollars.
PewDiePie. Yeah, there's a huge list put out every time.
There is.
Yeah.
Gigantic stuff.
No women on that
Netflix.
list.
I've got to get to that, please. UBS downgrading the stock, says the good news is all priced in. And the stock is down $3. But it's a $4.15. What do you say to this, Scott, right there in, I think, Chicago?
Yeah.
Is that where you are? Right.
Chi-Town, yes. We love Netflix, Stuart. You know, we've owned Netflix for quite some time. There's been a lot of haters that have tried to enter into Netflix and knock the price down only to see it rise more. There's a couple things going on with Netflix. International growth is absolutely off the charts. Don't forget, friends, they're raising prices on some of the services very, very subtly, but people are paying for them, and the original content that they're delivering is better than it's ever been. I love Netflix. I think 500 is absolutely in the cards here in the next few months.
Wow. Some recommendations from Scott this morning. AMLP yields 8%. Netflix, he says, is going to $500 a share. Time's up. Scott Martin and Christina Posnevelis, thanks very much, both of you, for joining us. Got it.